Well, I think you could say it's almost never fair when a coach goes, but it's a lot easier, as we all know, to replace a coach than it is the players. The ultimate responsibility lies on the players. I mean, they just did not produce. The Flyers had career years from a couple guys, most notably Jake Voracek and Steve Mason, the goalie. But, the secondary scoring wasn't there. The defense wasn't there. But all those players are not going to take the fall. So the coach takes the fall. And I didn't think Berube had a good year. I thought he did a great job last year. I didn't think he did a real good job this year. And Ron Hextall made the change because he thinks this is a playoff team. And, a lot of his problems were set up because of cap problems created by Paul Holmgren, and that's another story. But is it fair? It's never fair, but I think the Flyers could have been a playoff team this year if with a few better decisions, and that didn't happen.
Sam, Wayne Simmons said that, I think this was around the middle of the year, that we just didn't come to play most nights. I mean, that's halfway through the year. That's a pretty strong comment to make here. And, there was hints of that all season long, that, we just need to play better. We didn't bring it tonight. And they played well against playoff teams, but not against non-playoff teams. Is that, to you, the reason Craig Berube's not here?
Yeah, that's a big part. But let me just correct one thing. That what Simmons says, he says we don't come to play every night. He didn't say we don't come to play most nights. He said we don't come to play on some nights. So, and obviously there is a difference in that. But as you mentioned, their road record, their record in 1-goal games, their record in shootouts. I mean, you add it all together. This team was 8-18 in games that went beyond regulation. If you flip that around and go 18-8, you're probably in the playoffs. They lost time after time in 1-goal games. They were horrendous on the road. They only had 10 road wins all year. That's pretty hard to do, and you have to go back to 1971-72 for a year when they had fewer road wins. So, yeah, you add all those numbers together, and you can understand why Ron Hextall did what he did. And I just want to say that Craig Berube's a really good guy, and I don't think he gets a lot of abuse on Twitter and on a lot of the social media networks. But say what you will about the season, they did have a disappointing season, and but Berube is a class guy, and he's an old school guy, and you have to give him credit for some of the things he tried to do. I mean, here's a guy who had the guts to bench high paid guys like Andrew McDonald and Vinny Lecavalier. You can argue maybe it didn't work, but he's trying to ignite a fire, and I at least give him credit for not going by the book and at least trying different things and trying to light a fire under guys. And it worked for some guys. It worked for Michael Del Zotto. Del Zotto was furious that he was benched, and he got his act together and played really well. And the last part of the season, he was probably the Flyers' best defenseman. But, some guys didn't respond and some guys did, but at least give Berube credit for trying something different.
Yeah, and I know he came in last year. Sam Carchidi's with us, the Flyers beat reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Sam, he came in last year. The team was 0-3, and, he got them on the right track. This year they started off 0-4, and they never really responded, it seemed like. Let me go back, though. Do you think they made a knee-jerk reaction, not to steal Ron Hextall's move, in making the move last year? Was Peter Laviolette, his voice done in there, or do you think that, that he should still be here?
Yeah, I think his voice was done in the locker room, but I think they made a mistake in firing him after 3 games. I think they should have done it at the end of the season. They should have given Craig Berube a training camp, his own training camp, put his philosophy in. They struggled under Berube at the beginning. People forget that. They were 0-3 when he took over. They lost 4 of their next 5 games, so they were 1-7. But if you would have given Berube more time, and made the move in the off season and given Berube a chance to implement his system in the off season during training camp, things may have been different. But I think Laviolette did lose the room. And let's face it, the average span of a coach in the NHL is only about 4 years, and then you kind of lose the guys and you bring somebody else in. It's happened with Laviolette repeatedly, and it happens more often with the Flyers probably, but it happens all over the NHL. This is not unique to teams around the league.
Sam, Did the players, if you went around and asked each player, would there be a support for Berube to come back, or do you think ultimately if you asked them behind closed doors, they would say it's time to make a change?
I think there's more support than not, but, and it's almost predictable. I mean, the guys that did not play a lot, the guys that were benched or healthy scratches for a lot of games, they're the guys that wanted to change. The guys that played all the time or were given lots of minutes, they wanted Berube back. So, and Hextall today in his press conference said that, he didn't even ask the players. It was a little surprising. He said he did not even ask the players to comment on Berube and whether they like to play for him. He said because, I would just get some guys for him, some guys against him, and you get nowhere. So a little surprising. You would have thought that he would have at least tried to get a pulse of the locker room, but as I said, I think it was predictable because I talked to several guys that were in his corner, and I've talked to some that were not in his corner, and those guys, as I said, were the guys that were not playing that much.
So moving forward, I guess a lot of fear from Flyer fans or the maybe new age Flyer fans, the millennial group here, is that they're going to stay inside the organization, and it's going to be either somebody that played for the 87 runners-up or that Flyer family. Do you think that they go that route, or do you trust that Ron Hextall is a progressive guy and it's going to be somebody from outside the organization?
I think it will be someone from outside the organization, and there are certainly some good candidates that, played for the Flyers or coached here. And, you have Rod Brindamore, who, of course, is an assistant coach down Carolina. Terry Murray, who is now the Phantoms coach. John Stevens, who coached here one time, and some people think he got a raw deal here. And, of course, he's an assistant with L.A., and it looks like he's the heir apparent in L.A. Down the road. But there are certainly candidates, and I think that Ron Hextall will do due diligence and talk to those guys. But I think that he realizes that you need a pair of fresh eyes. You need somebody outside the organization. And so I think he'll, Mike Babcock will certainly be on his list. Whether he wants to come here or not, who knows? But I think Claude Julien, if he's relieved of his job in Boston, as rumored, he'll get a look. Bob McClellan of San Jose will probably get a look, and Peter DeBoer, who's kind of under the radar, but I thought did a really good job with New Jersey, got to the Stanley Cup final in 2012, and kind of got a raw deal this year. The front office, to me, really made a lot of mistakes there and some bad draft picks. So he'll be considered. And Dan Bylsma, who coached Pittsburgh and is the winningest coach in Penguins history and has a Stanley Cup on his resume, he should be considered. So there are a lot of good candidates out there, and there will be more in the coming days as coaches get fired around the league.
Do you think, then, that Ron Hextall was waiting to see some candidates? Why this little lull period? I mean, he kind of said, well, I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction. That's just the way I am. I mean, it's kind of looks a little sloppy at the end here, but do you take him at his word on that?
Yeah, I do, and I think the proof is in the pudding. No one has gotten fired in the last 2 days, so nothing really changed. He said he just needed some more time, and he wasn't waiting for anybody because nobody became available that wasn't available a couple days ago. So I was just a little surprised, to tell you the truth, that he didn't make the move on Wednesday because I thought he had ample amount of time to review the situation. The Flyers had been out of the playoff picture for almost 3 weeks, so I was a little surprised he didn't do it and announce it at Wednesday's season-ending press conference. But said today he just needed a couple more days, and he said, I went with my gut, and he said that's all you can do. He said Craig's a good guy. He's a good hockey man. He thinks he'll be employed down the road somewhere else. But I went with my gut, and I think we underachieved this year. And I think another thing is that he probably was not real satisfied with some of the growth of the younger players, guys like Couturier and Shen. We'll talk about Braden Shen. And I think moving forward, he wants somebody that can really help these young guys develop because, let's face it, they're going to be a big part of the Flyers' future.
All right, Sam Carchidi from the Philadelphia Inquirer here as the Flyers make a coaching change today. Well, not a change yet. They fired Berube. They haven't changed coaches yet because they have not hired somebody. We'll have to see who that is in the coming weeks here. Sam, last one for you. When you look at this roster, they're in salary cap purgatory right now. They can't do a lot there. They've got young defenders that they're not sure they really want to bring up, but they have younger forwards. can they do anything to improve themselves significantly this offseason?
Well, they can if they make some trades, because you're right, they only have a couple $1 million of cap space. So if they can unload some contracts like a Nick Grossman or a Vinny Lecavalier, then they will have some room, and then maybe they can make some moves to upgrade their second line, for instance. I think they really need some help there. I think the Couture, Reed, Braden Chen line is fine as your third line, but I think the second line needs some help. Wayne Simmons is solid, of course, there, but who knows if Vinny Lecavalier can still be a second-line center. That's one of the things that I think was disappointing about Berube this year. We never found out if Vinny Lecavalier has something left in the tank. He played him basically on the fourth line most of the year, and out of position at right wing. It would have been nice to get a look at him as a second-line center for 2 or 3 weeks to see if he has anything left, and we don't know that. And there's a chance that he comes back and he becomes the second-line center.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we don't know about the draft lottery. If they get Connor McDavid, if they get lucky Saturday and win the lottery, then everything changes. Then you have your second line center in place, and all of a sudden this becomes an exciting team. So, there are a lot of question marks still, and they'll be answered in the coming days.
Why is it, though? I find this interesting too. This is a team that has I don't want to say. I would say they have a lot of number 2 starters on the blue line back there. The defense is, not really top-tier guys. They have some young defenders. Sean Couturier is, 22 years old. They got a lot of younger guys. How come they seem so hesitant to use some of those younger defenders, at the NHL level?
Yeah, I've asked Hextall that. He said that, defensemen, they develop later. But you do see, you see the Ekblads from Florida and guys around the league that, other teams do it. That's not the Flyers' philosophy, has not been their philosophy. But I agree with you. I would, especially next year, I think it's time for one of these kids, whether it's a Sam Morin or a Travis Sanheim, who's probably not ready yet, or even a Robert Hagg, who, I'm not saying he's going to be the best of the big 4 prospects, but he may be the most ready. So I think it's time. I agree with you. I think it's time to throw one of the kids in there next year and see what he can do, and let him gain experience and get better and take his lumps maybe a little bit, but, you're also getting better. So, I think Hexie may be leaning that way too, because, they have some guys they can trade to open up spots, guys like Luke Shen or Grossman. I'd be a little surprised if they don't start next year with one of their young guns on the blue line. But we'll see how it plays out.
No doubt about it. Interesting offseason ahead now for Ron Hextall, as we'll see how creative he can be. Sam Carchidi from the Philadelphia Inquirer as the Flyers fire Craig Berube today. Sam, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Have a good day.